Thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
I'm so happy to talk about this, but for those who are unfamiliar, Namit, could you explain what Ramayana is?
You know, it's safe to say it is the foundational story of Indian culture. It's something that has existed for over thousands of years and is really at the core of Indian, culture, history, and very, very close to every person that sort of represents themselves as part of that part of the world.
And you gave out today at your Comic-Con panel this con-exclusive graphic novel explaining Ramayana to those who are getting to know it. This is awesome. Thank you for my copy. But this story has been beloved for thousands of years. Why is now the time for a cinematic adaptation?
So I think, Ramayana has existed and continues to exist and will exist in the future as well. I guess over the years, it has found its way very successfully in television. In the late 80s, that was the real, what people believe was the most successful rendition of the story on TV. And since then, there have been very small attempts here and there, as far as the film is concerned. But because the scope and the scale and the story, the characters, the worlds are so huge that traditionally most Indian filmmakers have sort of strayed away from it because it's firstly very, very sensitive because people really care too much about it. So unless you've got the allocation of great talent and great technology, it's actually very hard to do justice to something like this. And in my own case, after having built DNEG into this global visual effects company, having won a few Academy Awards on the way, it dawned on me that there's no better story than the Ramayana to really leverage something that really comes from where I belong, and how do we bring that to the world so that not only Indians but the rest of the world can also consume it. And that's why it's, to me, the perfect time to be doing this.
Excellent. Ranbir, you play Ram. What's it like to step into a role of a protagonist whose story you've grown up with? It's not every movie that allows you to play such a powerful role.
Absolutely. The first time Namit spoke to me about the fact that he was making Ramayana and he offered me the part of Lord Ram, my first instinct was fear, was doubt. Am I capable enough? Was I good enough? But I think that quickly that doubt changed into gratitude, to get the opportunity. It is an opportunity of a lifetime. We've grown up with the story of Ramayana, with the teachings of Lord Ram and all the other characters. And I truly believe that it was a gift of God that at this phase in my life, I was given this opportunity to actually change myself as a person for the better. I became a father for the first time. So I think telling my daughter stories about the Ramayana, learning more deeply about what it actually means, I had a very different understanding of the Ramayana. But at this phase in my life, I deeply understood the spirituality of it, the complexity of it, at the same time the simplicity of it also. So I'm just really grateful that I had this opportunity.
Tell me, how and why is Lord Ram called to action?
His humanity, is his compassion, his selflessness, his righteousness, his courage, the sacrifices he makes for his loved ones. Where in times of adversities, in times of conflict, he's always acted with compassion and not with ego. So I think that's what really is a superpower, and that's what really, makes him such a loved character with thousands of years.
Yash, tell me about playing the antagonist, Demon King Ravana.
I mean, to tell a story, you need good and bad, good and evil. So the most important aspect of this particular story is Ravana going out of control in terms of power, and he's driven by vengeance. He's driven by wrong things. So that is where I think the story becomes interesting. Like, if you see deeply, if you observe the story, when you'll find it out. The way both the characters are constructed, or the way the story entails, is Lord Rama is somebody who is born as a king, but he goes into situations where he has to lose everything, and then he has to regain all the powers with his behavior or the kind of action he takes. But Ravana starts with nothing. He becomes powerful, and then sometimes, like they say, when you fight a demon, you end up becoming a bigger one. Like you have to be very careful with that. So Ravana is somebody who is actually very talented. He has mastered many arts, but eventually ends up becoming a person who can't control his power. So that is where the story is interesting, and I think the contrast is very interesting in this story.
Well, you've no doubt heard this story before and grown up with it. What was it like taking on this role in particular?
See, that's the exciting part, because as a kid, we have all heard this story. Probably the first story I've heard. As a kid, my grandfather used to tell me these stories. And you have your imagination, and you've seen so many people have depicted this in many ways. So what do you bring in as an actor, and what is your understanding of that character was challenging. And I think my director and the writers have kind of given me that space so I could play this character in a very different way. And it was very challenging and exciting as well. Like you said, if you know the characters and everybody is aware of it, then it becomes a very challenging part. Because if it's a new film, you're telling a new story, whatever you do, that will become the character. But if people already have some imagination about it, and so many people have played it in different ways, then it's an extra pressure for an actor. But I have stuck to very simple basics to understand what made him do such kind of things. So intent was more important. I've gone behind that, and I think I've kind of given a different take on it. Hopefully people will like it.
Nitesh, what is it about Ramayana that makes it so beloved? What is the story's meaning to you?
At the heart of it, it's all about relationships and the emotions which come with relationships. And that's exactly what we have tried to capture. And along with that, we have given it a cutting-edge execution. That's what makes it very, very exciting. And the same story, which a lot of people may have heard, may have seen before, will find it absolutely refreshing, absolutely fresh take on that in terms of execution.
It's my understanding that this adaptation of Ramayana is broken into two parts. What does each part focus on?
I think, sir, you want to explain?
Yeah, both the parts focus. See, Ramayana is a linear story, and where we leave in part one is something which is, you can call it a cliffhanger, or something which will make people want to watch the part two the moment they leave the theater. That's basically it. It's a story which deserves two parts. It cannot be told in one part, and we just kind of decided that this probably would be the best part where we can leave it at for part one and leave the rest for the part two.
Excellent. Before we go, do any of you have something you'd like to say for people who are looking forward to seeing Ramayana?
All I can say is that it's one of the original OG sort of epics of the world. It's something that we should be excited to watch, because it doesn't need inspiration from anything or anyone else. It sort of has been a source of inspiration to a lot of the IP, a lot of the movies that we watch today. So I think if you want to watch something that has spectacle and characters and worlds written into it with a belief system that goes back thousands of years, it's a must watch, because I think it really brings together all of this, including the humanity, in a very seamless manner.
Excellent. Did anyone else want to?
Well, I think apart from many of the teachings and the moral lessons that Ramayana gives, there is a very interesting thing at the end of the story, when Lord Rama defeats Ravan and he returns home with his wife and his brother. He addresses his people and he says that you guys are celebrating that Ravana is dead, but actually Ravan is not dead. He's alive in each one of us every day, and every day we have to fight that battle. I think that's something very interesting, for someone even who's grown up in the West, for them to connect with. So there are many teachings in Ramayana. There are many layers. It's how you deal with complex relationships. If it's a father-son, if it's a husband-wife, an enemy, a teacher, a disciple. I think it gives you moral lessons on every different aspect of human connections.
Thank you all for joining me. The first part of Namit Malhotra's Ramayana releases in theaters on Diwali 2026.